lost all ambition or worldly acclaim. I just wanna be the one you love, and with your admission that you feel the same.
What's going on, guys? It's WWII here, and today we're going to be ranking every single Call of Duty game from the absolute worst to the absolute best, from COD 4 up until Modern Warfare 3. But before we get into it, guys, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you are brand new. And let's look at what is, in my opinion, the absolute worst game in a dead last. It's Modern Warfare 2 2022. Now, I think it's no surprise that an Infinity Ward title is literally a dead last, as somehow Infinity Ward managed to surpass themselves in making another COD game that was become so universally hated with this title. The multiplayer was just so terrible. No red dots, dead silence as a field upgrade which was absolutely useless, loud footsteps and slow movement, as well as heavy skill based matchmaking, as well as the complete focus on bundles. This really made the multiplayer experience pretty terrible. The only redeeming factor about the multiplayer was probably the map design, which was a slight improvement over 2019. DMZ ended up being paid to win, and the only redeeming factor about this game was the really good sequel to 2019's campaign. I actually enjoyed the campaign, but that's about as far as it goes with Modern Warfare 2. This hands down is one of the worst games. Door Fetcher Simulator comes to mind, because Joseph and his bloody door fetish is insane in this game. Like literally every single map, doors, doors, doors and doors. It's insane, and that's terrible. At number 16, it's Modern Warfare 2019. This game really isn't that much better than Modern Warfare 2 2022. But here we are. The campaign was actually pretty decent, if not a little bit too short. Graphics are some of the best stuff I've ever seen in the COD franchise. But that's where the good stuff ends with this game. The Spec Ops was pretty forgettable, and the multiplayer had some of the worst map design ever seen in COD history. Now, whilst there was a nice mix of several of the maps that have been remastered from some of the older COD games, the new maps weren't really that good and allowed for camping. And there was also a load of other problems. There was skill-based matchmaking, which was introduced for the first time, and one of the worst decisions that Activision has ever made, and it's a wonder why so many people have left the COD franchise ever since SBMM was a thing. But apart from that, there was also no red dots on the minimap, and for some reason Infinity Ward decided to make dead silence a field upgrade rather than a perk. And if it wasn't for SBMM, COD probably would still be pretty popular today, as this pretty much changed the franchise for the worse with the introduction of Warzone. Whereas COD 4 Modern Warfare changed COD for the better, Modern Warfare 2019 changed COD in my opinion for the worst. At number 15, Vanguard. I mean, what is there really to say about this? It's definitely up there as one of the worst games. However, I will cut Sledgehammer some slack, as they did not have a lot of time to develop this game. Many people see this as nothing but a World War II reskin of Modern Warfare 2019, and it's pretty obvious, especially when you look at some of the animations that were pretty much ripped off from 2019. And of course, nobody really asked for a World War II game, but that's what we got. Campaign, forgettable. Zombies, I don't think anyone even liked it. Multiplayer, some people liked it. I think it could have been good, especially the fact they did make some improvements over 2019 with the faster movement and some decent enough maps. However, that's where it ends. Everything else didn't exactly bode well. The amount of time it took for weapons to level up was insane, as well as all the bugs and glitches, and the weapon balancing really didn't help the multiplayer. But I think it's safe to say that we probably won't be getting a World War II era COD game anytime soon after the pretty poor reception to Vanguard. At number 14, Infinite Warfare, otherwise known as Black Ops 3 in Space. Yes, I call it Black Ops 3 in Space because it is literally what it is. If you were to look at the gameplay, you could tell there's a lot of similarities between Infinite Warfare and Black Ops 3. The way the jetpack system works, exactly the same. Combat rigs, just specialists. And that is just the one aspect. There was even a whole controversy around Infinite Warfare copying from the Halo series, which I obviously won't go into detail, but this game certainly got a lot of flack, especially because it was just another jetpack era COD game which people were getting pretty tired of at this point. And the worst part was, if you wanted to buy COD 4 Remastered, you had to buy the Legacy Edition just to play COD 4. It was absolutely insane. Now don't get me wrong, campaign was pretty decent, but the zombies? Lots of people have said that it's actually quite fun. But I'll be honest, I completely skipped out on this game, and so many other people did. And with the reasons I just explained, I think it's pretty easy why people just skip this game and will always see Infinite Warfare as just one of the worst titles. Perhaps if in retrospective, perhaps a lot of the hate was unnecessary, but due to fatigue. At number 13, COD Ghosts. I'll be honest, I was really disappointed with Ghosts because it actually had quite a lot of potential. The campaign was actually pretty good and still needs a sequel in my opinion, but is let down by the lackluster extinction mode, which really didn't exactly catch on and wasn't exactly that memorable either. But then there was the multiplayer, which was really terrible. Map design goes up there as some of the worst maps that had ever been released in COD history. They were way too big and way too campy, with only 1 or 2 maps that really were any good. But the DLC maps was what made the game somewhat enjoyable, as Ghosts had ended up having some of the best DLC released in COD history. And I will say this, had the DLC maps released in the base game, I think Ghosts would have been a far better game in my opinion, and probably wouldn't have gotten such the negative reception that it did, and still contained quite a rather negative reputation. And many people do see Ghosts as the start of the downward spiral in terms of Call of Duty, and I do agree with them. And number 12, COD World War II. Now this is one of these games that isn't a bad game, but isn't really that good either. Like, it's pretty much sort of like in the middle, like it's not bad but it's not good. The campaign, for what it was actually pretty decent, whereas the multiplayer at the start of the launch was pretty bare bones, but did improve as the game's life cycle went on, with more maps being added in the season pass, as well as even some free maps for those who didn't purchase the season pass. And I would say that the game is in a far better state than what it was when it first launched back in 2017. And I would say it's underrated, but with some of the problems, particularly how bare bones the movement feels, I wouldn't really say that it's underrated. Whilst I am grateful that it did go back to boots on the ground, with how restrictive the movement kind of felt and not really advanced and bare bones kind of put me off in a sense, but it was still a decent enough game that you can't really hate it, but it's not one of those games that would really appear in anyone's top 10, so I'm very much like on the fence about it. I don't hate it, but I don't really like it that much either. At number 11, Advanced Warfare. Now I'm going to come out and say something quite controversial. I think Advanced Warfare is quite underrated. Now I know many people are going to sit there and say that Advanced Warfare was absolutely terrible because of the jetpack system. I would disagree. I think Advanced Warfare was quite a breath of fresh air. The multiplayer mode was actually pretty fun. Now I know the movement system was a bit unrefined, but remember, this was the first time we actually had a jetpack in a COD game. And this was Sledgehammer's first attempt at a fully fledged COD title, which they had developed for 3 years. And the multiplayer, in my opinion, was actually pretty fun. Even though I only played it a couple of times, I quite enjoyed the multiplayer, although I do think that the Black Ops 3 movement system would make the game pretty perfect. Now that's not to mention the campaign. The campaign, pretty solid, and in my opinion, deserves a sequel. Whether we do get that sequel, I think does remain to be seen if Activision actually do give Sledgehammer the time to actually develop Advanced Warfare 2, as there have been many rumours that Sledgehammer have been hinting they wanted to create Advanced Warfare 2 for quite a long time, and honestly, I hope one day we do get to see an Advanced Warfare 2. Even if it doesn't quite have the jetpack movement, I still want to see a sequel to Advanced Warfare. So we're now cracking into the top 10, and the number 10 spot, Black Ops Cold War. This is regarded by many people as one of the best COD games post Modern Warfare 2019, and it's not hard to see why. Everything about the game was pretty much a step up. The campaign, as per usual for Treyarch, was pretty solid. The zombies was also a pretty decent experience, and the multiplayer was a huge step up from 2019. You had faster movement, red dots on the minimap. You had dead silence as an actual perk and not a field upgrade, and the footstep audio was nowhere near as bad. And the map design for the most part was also pretty good, and the post-launch content saw the remastering of several old Black Ops 2 maps, which I thoroughly enjoyed. and the guns were pretty well balanced and felt good to use. Everything about this COD game was actually pretty solid, despite COVID and everything that was going on behind the scenes when Treyarch had to take over the development of Cold War back in 2019 from Sledgehammer and Raven. And in that small amount of time, Treyarch were able to deliver this. And I think it's easy to see why so many people consider this game with high regard. However, the one thing that does hold this back from being any higher on this list is that there were plenty of maps in this game that I would actually end up backing out of. At number 9, Modern Warfare 3 2023. Now this game was expected to be a complete shit show as it was being developed by Sledgehammer, and especially following their recent release of Call of Duty Vanguard, which ended up being a complete disaster. Boy were we proven wrong. Now while the campaign was expectedly terrible because of what limited resources Sledgehammer had to actually develop this game, the multiplayer really cooked and was everything that Modern Warfare 2 should have been. You had fast movement, you had slide cancelling, you had dead silences of perk, and you had red dots on the minimap, as well as much faster movement. This is what MWII should have been, and it's quite embarrassing that Sledgehammer were able to do all this in less than a year. When you look at the fact that Infinity Ward and Treyarch usually spend years on their games and they can never get up to par, Sledgehammer did all this in less than a year and deserve a ton of praise, especially with the effort they put in with their post-launch content. You can definitely tell that they are passionate and actually care about COD and what it actually is meant to be played. And I really do hope that Sledgehammer do get the time to actually fully develop a COD game. At number 8, Black Ops 4. Now I'm going to be honest, I had a tough time deciding where to place this game in the list due to the fact it didn't have a campaign. However, the amount of content that was in this game allowed Black Ops 4 to actually kind of stand up on its own and still be quite a good game. The zombies was quite fun and engaging and had a variety of different maps. Blackout was actually quite an interesting and fun mode, even if it did sadly serve as a template for what Warzone would become. But the multiplayer is really where this game shines. Treyarch definitely put in the effort. The map design and the variety was pretty good. You had snow, you had rain, day and night, which is the many cornerstones of what good map design is. The time to kill was also increased to allow for longer gunfights. Specialists were reworked to become a more integral part of the game, even if at times it did get a bit annoying when you could have both the specialist ability and specialist weapon at the same time, something that was not the case back in Black Ops 3. However, the gunplay and the map design and everything else in the multiplayer more than made up for it, and in my opinion, it still allows Black Ops 4 to stand out as a pretty decent game. At number 7, Modern Warfare 3 Classic. Now, many people will remember the criticism that this game got at launch. However, these criticisms were shortly overlooked, given the amount of improvements and refinements that Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer made to the game as an overall experience. One-man army neutros were gone. You had some memorable maps such as Underground, Dome, and even Resistance, just to name a few. The multiplayer saw drastic improvements. You had the face-off playlist, you had Infected. The guns felt good to use. The nuke streak was back, although not quite a nuke streak, and instead it was the MWII. You had support streaks, and there was also the specialist streak, which would allow you to unlock all perks in the game if you went on like a 7 or 8 kill streak. It was utterly insane. The gameplay options were limitless. There were loads of challenges to keep you busy. And that's just all the multiplayer stuff. There was Spec Ops, in my opinion some of the best Spec Ops we'd ever seen, especially with the survival mode, guaranteeing infinite replayability. And then the campaign. Wow, it was such a satisfying conclusion to the original trilogy. Yeah, memorable scenes such as Soap's death and Makarov's death, with Soap just having a cigar right at the very end. Absolutely satisfying, and probably some of the best work that Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer did as a combined team. But there are some games that are highly worthy of praise. At number 6, World at War. Seen by many as just a carbon copy of COD 4, but done pretty well. World at War has vibes to it, if I'm honest with you. The campaign, one of the best World War II campaigns in my opinion. It was graphic, it was gritty, it was brutal. There were so many memorable scenes, especially the first mission where you play as the Russian soldier. With all those dead Russian bodies there, that's so memorable to me. I remember This being one of the first ever COD games that I ever played, and I'm glad I did. Especially with the good campaign. The multiplayer was also pretty fun for the most part, even if I only played a couple of online matches over at a friend's. It was still fun. MP40, STG, the M1, memorable weapons, and even some of the maps were pretty good from what I can remember. But this game shines with Nazi zombies. It was just so fun and addictive. Even that one singular map was enough to keep me playing when you just look away from all of the DLC maps that obviously came in the game's life cycle. Nazi zombies was fun, and if it wasn't for World at War giving us Nazi zombies, I honestly don't think there'd be a zombies community at all, and zombies I don't think would have ever been as popular as it was today. And in my opinion, World at War deserves its place at number 6. And number 5, COD 4. The game that kickstarted the popularity of the COD franchise. For many people, COD 4 has a special place in their memories. Whilst we do have to look behind the rose-tinted glasses, COD 4 is still a fun game. Campaign started off a great series. The multiplayer at its time was also pretty innovative. It was the first game that gave us kill streaks, and also a creator class system. Even if they were pretty basic, they laid down the foundations of what Call of Duty would eventually become in later iterations of the franchise. Now, by today's standards, COD 4, in my opinion, certainly would be quite dated in both the graphics department and the gameplay. And if you want to experience COD 4 nowadays, I would definitely recommend playing the Modern Warfare Remastered, as it certainly does remaster and define a lot of the gameplay and the graphics, making it feel like a more up-to-date COD. But when we look at COD 4 as a whole, it was actually quite a fun experience. You had fun maps, the fun campaign, weapons felt good to use, the weapon customization, whilst limited, was also pretty good. And in my opinion, I do feel somewhat obligated to place this game at the 5th spot because of how influential and instrumental it would be in making Call of Duty the behemoth that it is, as without COD 4, I don't think COD would even be anywhere near as popular as it is today. At the number 4 spot, Black Ops. I love this game, honestly. There's nothing wrong with the game. Campaign, probably one of the best in the entire series. The whole plot and the level design and the missions were really fun to play through. You have memorable characters, iconic villains. It was a great set piece. The zombies, pretty good as well. Kino de Toto, a solid map. And even the DLC maps that came after it was also pretty solid as well from what I remember people saying. And the multiplayer, well, do I have to say anything more? The multiplayer was iconic. You had iconic maps. You had Summit, you had Jungle, you had Nuketown. You know, they were just 3 of the maps that people remember the most. The weapons were fun to use. The FAMAS, the AUG, AK-47, the MP5, AK-74. I could probably go on forever about how good this game is, but I'd be here all day. And it's pretty worthy of the number 4 spot. And Black Ops 1, if it wasn't for Treyarch cooking this game, we would not have the successful Black Ops sub-series in Call of Duty. It's amazing. And number 3, Modern Warfare 2 Classic. This game is some of the best that Infinity Ward has ever done as a dev team, because honestly, following Modern Warfare 2, Infinity Ward was never quite the same. But anyway, Modern Warfare 2 is a great game. Brilliant follow-up to the original COD 4 campaign, giving us memorable moments such as General Shepard's betrayal, giving us Vladimir Makarov as an iconic villain, returning Captain Price and Captain Soap McTavish. The level design and everything about the game was pretty good. Had the infamous No Russian mission. Everything about this game went over the top. Spec Ops was also pretty fun, but then there's the multiplayer, which really shines. Some iconic maps, Scrapyard, Afghan, Skid Row, just to name a few. The weapons felt also good to use. AK-47, the ACR, the MP5, Intervention. There was way more customization, and the kill streak system was completely overhauled in this game. You had loads more options to customize your kill streaks, and even gave us the famous nuke, the tactical nuke, which would see the trend of COD games having a nuke streak. Now, whilst there were some things that were over the top, it was pretty much part of the charm, and what makes this game so fun is just how ridiculously over the top it was, and I actually found it quite a lot of fun. I will always consider this to be one of the best of Infinity Ward's games, and well deserving of the number 3 spot in my opinion. At number 2, Black Ops 3. Honestly, I love this game. Probably one of my favourite Call of Duty games that I've ever played. But it is let down by the very terrible campaign that honestly had nothing to do with the Black Ops 2 as a whole. If anything, it was quite confusing. Like, I don't really know what they were trying to go with the Black Ops 3 campaign. It was really weird. It was all about this DNI stuff. Well, I can't even remember if I'm honest. But apart from that, everything else about this game was just phenomenal. The zombies, some of the best in the series. Heck, even though I'm not much of a zombies person, I found myself playing Shadows of Evil quite often. But the multiplayer is where this game really shines. You had some of the best map design, memorable maps, Combine, Hunted, Fringe, Nuketown, the Black Ops 3 version, which it was just so much fun. And the weapons felt good to use as well, and not to mention the kill streaks. Oh, they were fun. Wraith, Rap and Motherships. That's all I needed to have a good time. It was so much fun. And honestly, had it not been for the terrible campaign, I think Black Ops 3 easily probably would have been my #1 game. At the #1 spot, which anyone could have guessed by now, it's Black Ops 2. Black Ops 2 is the creme de la creme when it comes to COD. And that's just being nice. Black Ops 2, I mean, I could say it is literally one of the best COD games of the series because it is. You had the best campaign, the best multiplayer, and the best zombies. Treyarch really delivered with this game. Campaign, definitely up there as one of the best. You had the branching storylines, which gave you a different ending depending on the route that you took in the campaign. The level design, the set pieces, everything about the game was pretty good. Split between the 1980s and the modern day. Made for a good combination. You had the memorable villain of Raul Menendez. And that's just the campaign. Zombies, I think Transit is underrated in my opinion. The zombies as well was just also really good. Nuketown zombies, but the multiplayer is where this game really shines. You have memorable maps like Raid, Express, Standoff, Slums, Nuketown 2025, some of the best maps. The weapons also felt good to use. You had the AN-94, the Ballista, the DSR-50, the MP7, the PDW. That's just to name a few. Everything was fun, the score streaks were good, customization was there, we had the Pick 10 system, which in my opinion is the best customization system in the entire series. And really should make a comeback. And honestly, I could go on forever how great this game is because it is just one of the best games. Whether a Call of Duty game in the future will ever top Black Ops 2 remains to be seen. So there you have it folks, that's my list. All the COD games from the absolute worst to the absolute best. Was your list the same as mine? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Sound off in the comments section down below. And as usual, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new, and I will see you all in my next video.